Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. At least 18 people have been killed as two landmines exploded in Syria's western central province of Hama. Syria's state media says 3 others were injured in the countryside incidents near the city of Salamia. It said blasts occurred at 2 landmines left behind by terrorist groups. Yemen's Houthis have fired missiles at Saudi Arabia's Aramco oil facility in eastern region. Saudi Energy Ministry said the strike targeted a petroleum tank farm at Ras Tanura port, which is one of the largest oil shipping ports in the world. While a residential area housing thousands of the company's employees at the Haran facility was also attacked. The ministry said no injuries or material damages have been reported in either attack. In Myanmar, a complete shutdown is being observed across the country against the military coup on the call of major trade unions. State media says security forces are keeping a presence at hospitals and universities to enforce the law. Meanwhile, Australia has suspended its defense cooperation with Myanmar. Brazil's coronavirus infections tally has crossed 11 million with over 265,000 deaths. Pakistan has registered nearly 1,600 new cases and 22 more fatalities overnight as its death toll reaches over 13,200. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 2.59 million lives and infected over 116 million people so far. International Women's Day is being marked all around the world today. The day celebrates women's achievements and increases visibility in the public sphere. Many activities have been scheduled across the globe to make a call for accelerating gender parity. And in tennis, Argentine player Diego Schwartzman comfortably beats compatriot Francisco Cerundolo 6-1, 6-2 in the final to lift the Argentina Open title. This is Schwartzman's first championship win at home ground. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. At least 18 people have been killed as 2 landmines exploded in Syria's western central province of Hama. Syria's state media says 3 others were injured in the countryside incidents near the city of Salamia. The official news agency said all those killed were civilians. It said blasts occurred at 2 landmines left behind by terrorist groups. The observatory says explosives left in fields, along roads or in buildings by all sides in Syria's conflict have killed hundreds. The UN has said more than 10 million people live in areas contaminated by explosive hazards. Yemen's Houthis have fired missiles at Saudi Arabia's Aramco oil facility in the east. The Saudi Energy Ministry says the strike targeted a petroleum tank farm at Ras Tanura port, one of the largest oil skipping ports in the world. Just a day after the Saudi-led coalition conducted airstrikes on Houthi military targets in the Yemeni capital Sana'a and other regions, the rebels say they have fired 25 drones in a wide operation in the heart of Saudi Arabia. In a tweet, Houthi spokesperson Yahya Sari said, Other military sites in Syria and Jazan areas have also been targeted. Meanwhile, the Saudi Energy Ministry also confirmed that a residential area housing company employees at the Tehran facility was attacked. The ministry said no injuries or material damages have been reported in either attack. The Arab coalition vowed that Riyadh will take all necessary defensive measures and ensure the stability of energy supplies. The escalation comes as the UN steps up diplomatic efforts for a ceasefire to pave the way for the resumption of talks to end the conflict. Italy's 15 people have died in a series of explosions in Equatorial Guinea. The health ministry says some 500 people were injured following the blast which happened at a military base in Bata. In a statement, President Teodoro Obiang said the blasts were caused by negligence relating to the storage of dynamites. State television showed people looking for survivors in the rubble and lifting debris from collapsed buildings. In a series of tweets, the health ministry has asked for volunteers and blood donations due to the high number of casualties. In Myanmar, shops, factories and banks are closed in Yangon after the trade unions called for a complete shutdown of the economy. An alliance of 9 unions called for the extended strike to mount pressure on the military. In a statement, the alliance said to continue economic and business activities as usual will only benefit the military. The alliance added the time to take action in defense of democracy is now. Myanmar state media said the military is keeping presence at the universities and hospitals to enforce laws. Local media reported the army has occupied institutions across Myanmar and set up camps there. Nevertheless, crowds demonstrating against last month's coup gathered in Yangon as well as in Mandalay and other cities. Meanwhile, Australia has suspended its defense cooperation program with Myanmar. The United Nations says over 50 protesters have been killed by security forces since the military seized power last month. The number of coronavirus infections in Brazil has crossed 11 million with over 265,000 deaths. Globally, the virus has claimed nearly 2.6 million lives and infected over 116 million people so far. More in this report.
Controversies surrounding the coronavirus have piled up as the world marks 1 year to the day COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. As the United States approaches 29 million cases, experts say the rise of new variants is putting the country at the tipping point of another surge. Top U.S. infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci has warned that it is too early to end social restrictions, but the Texas governor says the state can reopen fully next week. Meanwhile, protesters in Idaho burned face masks to oppose restrictions in the UK. Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Charles have praised people throughout the Commonwealth for uniting during the pandemic.
Coronavirus pandemic has affected every country of the Commonwealth, cruelly robbing countless people of their lives and livelihoods. Amidst such heartbreaking suffering, however, the extraordinary determination, courage and creativity with which people have responded has been an inspiration to us all.
The European Union's medicine agency has urged member states to refrain from granting approvals for Russia's Sputnik V while it reviews its effectiveness. Meanwhile, Austria has suspended inoculations with the Oxford vaccine as it investigates the death of one person after the shots.
In Pakistan, 22 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 overnight, bringing the total to 13,227. The health ministry has reported nearly 1,600 cases over the last 24 hours. The ministry said so far over 592,000 people tested positive for the virus, of which more than 560,000 have recovered. The ministry said the number of active cases stands above 18,000. It added 2,071 people are currently being treated in hospitals for the virus. In Pakistan, security forces have killed 4 terrorists during intelligence-based operation in North and South Waziristan. In a statement, the military's media wing, ISPR, said 3 militant commanders were among those killed. It added the terrorists were involved in multiple attacks on security forces and incidents of target killing. The ISPR said 2 of the commanders were close associates of Baitullah Mahsoud. A huge cache of arms was recovered from their hideouts. Earlier on Saturday, security forces had killed 8 terrorists in similar operations in North Waziristan. In India, thousands of women will take center stage today at the protest sites of the farmers' movement. Earlier, farm unions announced they will observe Women's Day at Delhi borders. Thousands of women protesters, some of them driving tractors, arrived in Delhi from Punjab and Haryana. Farm leaders said the day will be dedicated to women growers and the speakers too will be women. Meanwhile, Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi lashed out at Modi government over the laws. Gandhi says she will support the farmers' protest even if it takes 100 months. Addressing a farmers' grand meet, she said Delhi has insulted more than 200 martyrs that died in the protest. A veteran U.S. journalist, Fareed Zakaria, says India's democratic decline has been steady and swift under Prime Minister Modi's rule. Referring to Disha Ravi's arrest, Zakaria said India has clamped down over the freedom of speech over the past few years. Quoting Freedom House report, Zakaria said the watchdog downgraded India from free to partly free for the first time in 30 years. According to the research group, Article 14, over 7,000 people have faced sedition charges in the Modi era. In regards to that, the Indian government warned of growing consensus abort on attacking Modi as a dictator. In a tweet, Subramanian Swamy of BJP said the party must address the issue. The parliamentary members of Libya's rival parties have gathered in the Sirte city to debate the proposed unity government. Parliament spokesperson said the session aims to debate giving confidence to the government announced by Prime Minister-designate. He said the lawmakers will also discuss on a legitimate quorum and what majority is needed to confer confidence. However, if Parliament is unable to agree on approving the new government, the UN Talks Forum is expected to do so instead. Prime Minister-designate Abdulhamid Dbeibeh was appointed through a political dialogue held in Geneva by the UN. The US says it will defend its interests at all costs after a rocket attack last week on Iraq's Ain al-Sada air base. The base houses American coalition and Iraqi forces. In an interview, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the U.S. has urged Iraqi authorities to investigate the incident. He said the U.S. troops will retaliate at the time and place of their choice. Discussing Iran, he said Tehran is fully capable of assessing the strike and the U.S. activities at the base. At least 10 rockets were fired at the base in Anbar province that left the U.S. contractor dead due to a cardiac arrest. U.S. forces retaliated by carrying out airstrikes against facilities at a border control point in Syria used by pro-Iran militias. Washington and Seoul have reached an agreement on sharing the cost of U.S. forces stationed in South Korea. U.S. State Department says the proposed agreement contains a negotiated meaningful increase in South Korea's contribution. A State Department spokesperson said the pact will strengthen bilateral alliance and shared defense. In a statement, she said the agreement reflects Washington's commitment to reviving alliances across the globe. The proposed 6-year special measures agreement will replace the previous one that expired in 2019. Meanwhile, Seoul's foreign ministry said both sides will hold a signing ceremony after completing internal procedures. South Korea hosts around 28,500 U.S. soldiers as deterrents to North Korea. And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Switzerland, a far-right proposal to ban women from wearing burka or veil has won a narrow victory in a binding referendum viewed as Islamophobic. The same group that organized a ban on new minarets in 2009 had instigated the proposal. The measure to amend the Swiss constitution was passed by a 50% margin. Human rights activists and Muslim groups have criticized the ban. The Central Council of Muslims in Switzerland called the vote a dark day for the community. It promised legal challenges to laws implementing the ban and a fundraising drive to help women who are fined. France had imposed a similar ban in 2011, while some other EU states have full or partial bans on wearing face coverings. Authorities in Senegal have lifted the detention order of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko. Sonko, who is also accused in a rape case, was arrested on his way to court for disturbing public order. His lawyer Bamba Cisse told the press the prosecutor had lifted the order against his client. Sonko will still testify before the judge later today on the accusation of rape and death threats. Protests have been taking place in Senegal for nearly a week following Sonko's arrest earlier this month. At least 5 people have died and many injured in the unrest. International Women's Day is being marked all around the world today. The day celebrates women's achievements and increases visibility in the public sphere, all the while calling out inequality. This report has more. Many events are being organized across the globe to make a call for accelerating gender parity. But unlike previous years, more virtual events are taking place due to the coronavirus pandemic. The UN announced the theme for 2021 as Women in Leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. Women have come a long way, but there is still some distance to cover amid hurdles and boundaries.
Every day, the thought that you could be taking home, it was very difficult. Oh God, sorry. And it was very real. You knew that you had to take precautions, but you also knew that as a professional you have a responsibility to your patients and out there. So you couldn't say that I'm going to shield as well because my mom is such a high risk and I want to stay at home. Even though my heart wanted to in a little bit selfishness, but I couldn't do that.
This year saw the inauguration of Kamala Harris as the first female, first Black and first Asian American U.S. Vice President. Women's struggle achieved another landmark when Tokyo Olympics Committee named Siku Hashimoto as their new president.
My name is Momoko Nosho. I am 22 years old. I want 2021 to be a year where we can have more female leaders, not just in the Tokyo Organizing Committee but also in companies, politics and other various areas. I wish for a society where women's voices will be reflected.
It has been a tough year, with data from UN revealing the pandemic could wipe out 25 years of increasing gender equality. But against all odds, women continue to show their strength, whether as frontline health workers, athletes, or policymakers. From the first Muslim Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto to the youngest Microsoft certified professional, Arfa Karim, Pakistani women have proven time and again that they are second to none. In the last year alone, Pakistani women made their country proud with multiple achievements. Details in the following report.
Despite the challenging and stressful times amid the ongoing pandemic, Pakistani women have kept on excelling and breaking gender stereotypes in each and every walk of life. Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa lauded Pakistani women's contributions for the glory of the nation, saying, "In uniform, women have proved their mettle by contributing copiously to diverse fields, serving the nation and humanity." When it comes to the military, Nigar Johar became Pakistan's first woman to be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General. Since then, Johar, who is also the first female General Surgeon of Pakistan Army, has been at the forefront of the fight against coronavirus with other women in uniform.
My name is Anila Muhammad Aslam. Freedom lies in being bold. I hope the year 2021 will be a year of women's freedom.
In January 2020, the United Nations Secretary General awarded medals to 15 Pakistani women officers for their peacekeeping mission in Congo. Women security personnel are highly contributing to the safety of citizens in their home country as well. In academia, Lahore's Zara Naeem made the country proud by scoring the highest marks at the global level in the ACCA exam. Another young Pakistani girl Emma Alam emerged as the winner of the World Memory Championship 2020.
Pope Francis has met the father of the Syrian migrant boy whose body washed up on a Turkish beach 6 years ago. Winding up a historic trip to Iraq, the pontiff met Abdullah Kurdi at the end of Mass in the city of Erbil. In a statement, Vatican said the Pope spent a long time with Kurdi and listened to the pain of a father. It said Kurdi thanked Francis for his closeness to the tragedy and to the pain of all those migrants who risked their lives to seek peace. Alan Kurdi joined along with his mother and brother when a smuggling boat taking them to Europe capsized in 2015. The image of the 3-year-old boy captured world's attention as millions of Syrians fled civil war and boarded unsafe ships bound for Europe. The U.S. has urged computer network operators to gauge whether their systems were targeted amid Microsoft email hacks. The White House says the recent software patch still left serious vulnerabilities. In a statement, it said the active threat is still developing and must be taken very seriously. The White House added top U.S. security officials are working to decide the next steps following the breach. Meanwhile, Microsoft says it was working with the government and others to help guide customers. It also urged impacted clients to update software as soon as possible. More than 20,000 U.S. organizations were compromised by the hack of the Outlook email program. Meghan Markle has accused the British royal family of racism, lying and pushing her to the brink of suicide. The Duchess of Sussex made the claims in an explosive TV interview that looks set to shake the monarchy to its core. The 39-year-old said she ended up having suicidal thoughts after getting married into the royal family. She added that her son Archie had been denied the title of prince because of his skin color.
So we had in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
In the interview, Prince Harry said he shared Meghan's concerns. He said his family cut them off financially and his father, Prince Charles, let them down and refused to take his calls. Buckingham Palace has yet to comment publicly on the interview. In Mexico, archaeologists have assembled a recreation showing the splendors of the Mayan Red Queen who reigned 1,000 years ago. Details in the following report.
The recreation of the Red Queen is part of a new exhibition near the Mayan ruins of Palenque, revealing decorative pieces and a headpiece. The remains of this Mayan noble are referred to as the Red Queen because her tomb was entirely covered in red cinnabar. Her real name is Ixig Zaka Ab Ajao, and from evidence found at the site, she died on November 13, 672 Common Era.
La cámara central fue utilizada.
The central chamber was used for burial, inside a monolithic sarcophagus that was accompanied with offerings. The chamber of the Red Queen surprised us with its simplicity and lack of context. On the lid, the remains of incense probably used during the burial ritual was found, which covered the circular opening located over a duct.
Palenque was the most important city of the Low Western lands during the late Classic period, reaching its peak between 600 and 800 Common Era. One of the most notable aspects of the Palenque is Temple 13, where the tomb of the Red Queen was found in 1994. This tomb is significant because it shares the same platform as the Temple of the Inscriptions, suggesting nobility.
Asia-Pacific markets are trading mixed as investors reacted to last week's U.S. jobs report that trounced expectations for a faster economic recovery. The Australian shares have been in the green as benchmark ASX 200 climbed over 1%. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 rose by 0.21%, while the Topix index added just below 0.5%. Meanwhile, South Korea's Kospi gave up earlier gains to trade down 0.32%. However, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index tumbled 1.43%. Chinese mainland shares also fell as the Shanghai Composite was down 0.2%, while the Shenzhen Component lost 1%. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.